federal judge ruled that President Donald Trump has violated US law by deploying National Guard troops and Marines to Los Angeles in a series of immigration enforcement operations during the summer. In a 52-page decision issued on September 2nd, US District Judge Charles Breyer found that Trump and his Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, breached the Posse Comitatus Act, an 1878 statute that prohibits the use of the US military to enforce domestic laws without congressional approval. The evidence at trial established that defendants systematically used armed soldiers, whose identity was often obscured by protective armor, and military vehicles to set up protective perimeters and traffic blockades, engage in crowd control, and otherwise demonstrate a military presence in and around Los Angeles. In short, defendants violated the Posse Comitatus Act. The ruling comes after a 3-day trial held in August, during which the state of California argued that Trump overstepped his constitutional authority when he mobilized approximately 4,000 California National Guard troops and 700 Marines without state consent. The deployment took place amid widespread protests in downtown Los Angeles against the administration's hardline immigration policies. Urging the court to return command of the remaining Guard members to Governor Gavin Newsom, California sought to block further use of federal troops in roles typically reserved for civilian law enforcement. The Justice Department argued that the deployment was necessary to protect federal agents and property during volatile enforcement actions, and claimed that the troops acted within legal limits. But Judge Breyer rejected that rationale, writing that the administration had used military force not merely for protection, but for direct involvement in law enforcement. There were indeed protests in Los Angeles, and some individuals engaged in violence. Yet there was no rebellion, nor was civilian law enforcement unable to respond to the protests and enforce the law. According to the Wall Street Journal, California also pointed to internal Pentagon regulations that prohibit military personnel from engaging in certain law enforcement activities, including crowd and traffic control and staffing checkpoints. Testimony during the trial revealed that federal troops had in fact detained civilians and established perimeters in various neighborhoods, actions that California attorneys said clearly crossed the legal line. Breyer's ruling now bars the federal government from using troops in California for a wide range of law enforcement functions, including arrests, searches, seizures, patrols, traffic and crowd control, riot control, and interrogations, without explicit authorization from Congress.
This was intentional. Defendants instigated a months-long deployment of the National Guard and Marines to Los Angeles for the purpose of establishing a military presence there and enforcing federal law. Such conduct is a serious violation of the Posse Comitatus Act.
The judge, a Clinton appointee based in San Francisco, paused enforcement of the ruling until September 12th, giving the Trump administration time to file an appeal. As of now, most federal troops have left Los Angeles, though approximately 300 National Guard members remain on federal status, according to the Department of Defense. In a particularly sharp rebuke, Breyer warned that Trump's continued efforts to deploy military force in cities across the US could lay the groundwork for a dangerous precedent. President Trump and Secretary Hegseth have stated their intention to call National Guard troops into federal service in other cities across the country, including Oakland and San Francisco, here in the Northern District of California, thus creating a national police force with the president as its chief. The ruling adds legal weight to growing concerns over Trump's repeated use of federal force in cities that oppose his policies. He has already deployed the National Guard under separate authorities in Washington, D.C., and has publicly considered doing the same in Chicago, Baltimore, and New York City. A pattern critics argue undermines the federalist balance between state and national powers. During the trial, California Deputy Attorney General Megan Strong testified that the military presence had a chilling effect on public life in Los Angeles. She pointed to restaurant closures, event cancellations, and general fear among residents during the deployment. Judge Breyer echoed those concerns in his ruling, pressing the administration's legal team on the scope of presidential power. The ruling marks a pivotal moment in the ongoing debate over presidential authority, states' rights, and the lawful limits of military involvement in domestic affairs. Issues that could shape the balance of power in future administrations.